Earlier in the program, we talked about this hateful, racist letter that had been sent to a mosque in Edmonton. The fact that whoever wrote the letter made reference to Jason Kenney, there was a UCP logo in the letter, but nothing at this point to suggest that whoever wrote it or sent it had anything to do with the UCP. And perhaps more likely it's someone looking to cause trouble, stir up trouble. And maybe it's somebody on the far right that just wants to make Kenney look bad because he's not ideologically pure enough for their liking. Now, the response from the Premier, the initial response from the Premier, was very appropriate. Very to the point. Rachel Notley tweeted this morning, the hateful note left at Markaz ul-Islam Mosque in Edmonton shows the terrible hate and fear that can be spread by a small group that want to tear down our strong and diverse of Alberta. I stand with Muslim Albertans and all who oppose this hate. We are stronger together. Great. Perfect response. But it seems she couldn't help herself. So there was a second statement put out from Rachel Notley. It says, the headline here, it says, statement from Rachel Notley condemning racism and Islamophobia in Alberta. So what more does she think needs to be said? Well, I guess she didn't get enough political shots at her opponent in her first statement. So they throw this in. Well, Jason Kenney has said there's no place for hatred in his party. Racists and extremists clearly feel welcome with them. As such, in the interest of pushing back against the presence of hate in our province, Mr. Kenney has an elected obligation to personally condemn these values and to take concrete actions to evict these factions from the UCP. This is a leadership moment for Mr. Kenney and a test of his character, etc., etc. This is inappropriate. This is needless politicization of what is an ugly incident. Look, if it turns out that this is somebody who is a UCP candidate or a long-time Kenney ally or some kind of party organizer, anything like that, then we can talk about that then. What has Mr. Kenney failed to do here? I've got my own issues, disagreements with Jason Kenney. I think certainly when it comes to social conservatives, there's very much some pandering on his part to certain factions. That has nothing to do with this. Rachel Notley says Jason Kenney has an elected obligation to personally condemn these values. He absolutely did. We read the statement that Jason Kenney was very quick to put out this morning in no uncertain terms condemning this stuff and making it clear that he wants nothing to do with these types. What more can he say at that point? What more does he need to say at that point? That this is hatred. He denounces it, wants nothing to do with it. It is not welcome in his party. It is not what his party stands for. She says Jason Kenney needs to take concrete actions to evict these factions from the UCP. Again, he has done so. There's been a couple of candidates, not even nominated candidates, but people aspiring to be nominees in certain riding nomination battles. And the party has been very quick when controversy has arisen, past comments made by a couple of individuals to say these people are out of the party. So when Rachel Notley says he needs to evict these factions from the UCP, again, what has he failed to do? What is it that you think Jason Kenney needs to do that he hasn't done? Or are you just mentioning Jason Kenney's name in all of this to further associate him with this? It is no coincidence that we see something like this on the verge of an election campaign. So Rachel Notley, I think, has gone from showing real leadership in what she initially said about this to becoming a very political leader. Went from being the Premier of Alberta to the leader of the NDP. In politicizing this. And that's unfortunate. This doesn't need to be politicized. Look, if Jason Kenney had hedged at all on this, if he had been equivocal, if he'd pulled his punches, if he was using weasel words to avoid condemning this, then absolutely we'd have a case to make. But that's not what happened. It's almost as though they wrote this before he responded, or they wrote this weeks ago and they're just going to use it whenever there's some act of racism. Or they just paid no regard to what it was he said. I don't know. But this is a needless politicization of something that everybody's in agreement on, other than the racist fringes. Everybody's in agreement that this is hateful, this is to be condemned, this has no place in mainstream Alberta politics. And the leader of the UCP has made it clear that it has no place in his party.